What a finish. That has to be the greatest race in NASCAR history. Welcome back to another episode of Rolling About. We're here to break down the Ambetter Health 400 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Oh my goodness. This is easily the greatest race I have ever watched. One of the greatest races in NASCAR's history and one of the greatest finishes in NASCAR history. This race had it all. There was a lot of hype, maybe a little bit of negativity towards this race after the two truck and Xfinity Series races. We didn't know how the Cup Series race was going to go. I thought last year's races here were pretty good. We didn't know because a lot of the trucks and Xfinity were kind of like train racing. There wasn't really much movement. The bottom lane was pretty much weak in the truck and Xfinity Series race. But we didn't get any of that. We saw great racing, 4-wide racing, 2-wide racing, runs. Oh my, it was everything, man. So we're here to break it all down. We're going to start off with stage one. And stage one, we thought, how's this race going to start? Well, before we even got to stage one, Joey Logano, who would have qualified second on the front row, was dropped to the rear and had to do a pass-through penalty on the opening lap because of a modification to his glove. I guess it was not the correct specifications for SFI. I do not know what that actually stands for, but Fox actually showed it. And his glove, they must have showed, his gloves were webbed like duck feet. So the reason that he was doing that is because the wind is really a big deal in the super speedways. They want to keep the wind out of their car. So he would put his hand up there, and due to the fact that he had webbed on, it would keep the air out. So usually if you didn't have the web, the air could come through your fingers and all that. It's some great technology. Look, man, they can barely do much to these cars. NASCAR is honed down on, you do anything modification-wise, and now they're trying to find any way. They're out here modifying their stinking racing gloves and trying to get an advantage. So it's great engineering, but NASCAR saw it. They got caught. I'm not sure if NASCAR goes through and inspects these gloves like every race in their helmets. I assume they do. I don't know how that would work. Or did someone just see it when he was walking out? But that was one thing. But luckily that penalty didn't really have much to do because the big one happened on lap 3 for the race. Crazy. It was a massive crash. 16 cars. It looked like it was a stack up between the 38 and the 3. He got loose. He spun. And then a bunch of cars just piled in. I mean, here's the list. Austin Dillon, Chase Elliott, Noah Gragson, Josh Williams, Christopher Bell, Harrison Burton, Bubba Wallace, Daniel Hemrick, John Nemechek, Eric Jones, Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, Kaz Grala, Ty Gibbs, Carson Hocevar, and Daniel Suarez. Really, I think the only one who was really taken out was Alex Bowman, but some cars did have to, end up going to the garage after they realized they just didn't have the proper things fixed, suspension issues. I know Christopher Bell was out, so there wasn't as many cars taken out of it, but a lot of cars were just beat up. That really affected their entire race to keep going. But then we got green, then we saw some good racing. The runs these guys were getting was really, really fun, entertaining to watch. We never really saw any train racing. But then our next caution on lap 26 was for Chris Buescher spinning out by himself. Looks like he was up near the wall and just got loose in 3 and 4. Spun out, no damage, no one else got involved. It was all good. And then it went back green, raced again, raced aggressive. We didn't see anything. It never chilled down at all. And then we had another caution on lap 54 of stage 1. Looked like, and Denny Hamlin came down Kyle Busch. He thought he was cleared. He was not. Spun out in the grass. Nothing much in there. Maybe a little bit of splitter damage. Nothing much. It didn't really affect his car after that. Spun out. A little content there. Got rolling. And then we got back green, and I gotta say, Michael McDowell's car was so strong in the beginning of this race. It seemed like he could run the bottom lane, and there could only be 3 or 4 cars, and there could be 10 cars in the top lane, but his car was so good. He was able to generate so many good runs, so much momentum. That's what led him to winning stage 1. And then we get restarting for stage 2, and this race was, the intensity picked up, the racing was aggressive. We saw the Team Penske cars working together, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney. We saw Brian Gonzalez get up there, Denny Hamlin get back up there. A lot of these cars were not as affected. With no cautions really happening, we were about to hit green flag stops. And this was new because the way the green flag stops work is that they enter, pit road entry is in turn 3, which is 9 miles per hour. And then when they get to the main pit road, it's 45. So you're going to have to see a bunch of cars coming down the backstretch at full speed, close to 180 miles an hour, all trying to get down there into turn 3 and slow down enough. And that's also where we had some trouble. The 34 went down and locked up his brakes, and that caused him to spin, sent William Byron head on to the wall there. And it was really surprising because there was no caution for this. A car just went head on to a wall, no caution. And I believe that the Fox was kind of making it seem like NASCAR didn't want to throw a caution there because it was going to screw up the whole system and the whole flow. It was going to benefit other cars. But in my opinion, if you got to throw a caution, you got to throw a caution. So that was all a confusing thing. But then it cycled through. We had a massive amounts of penalties. Kyle Busch had a speeding penalty. Ross Chastain had a speeding penalty. A bunch of cars had speeding penalties due to the fact that it was so confusing. There was a couple of cars that must have thought it was the 45 mile per hour and it actually was 90 because there would be cars slowing down. And then you would see cars behind them much faster and almost like about to rear end them. So that was kind of fascinating to watch and a little bit crazy at the same time. Hectic getting on the pit road. And then after the whole cycle, the pack kind of split up there. It was not as organized. It was only 12, 15 cars in this one pack, and then the rest of the cars, due to the fact there were so many cars getting speeding penalties and messing up on pit road slow stops, there wasn't as many cars, and that's where we saw some great racing. Todd Gilliland, the front row cars are legit. With that Tier 1 support, they are fast. Todd Gilliland led the most laps in this race at 58 laps. Impressive run. Both of the cars. Michael McDowell, who won the pole, led in 27 laps, so the front row cars are really, really fast. They're showing why they could be legit contenders this year, not just Michael McDowell, even Todd Gilliland. It's great to see those guys dicing up out front. But then we got the final lap was stage 1 all of a sudden, and it looked like you had Cindric Larson up front there. It looked like Joey was trying to clear, and it looks like he got loose up in the turn 2 and just kind of washed up the track. It was kind of weird, and he pretty much turned himself into Chris Buescher. Danny Hamlin was behind that, got collected in that wreck too. Danny's wasn't as bad, but Joey's kind of took him out himself out of contention. Chris Buescher was still fine, but it was such an odd wreck. Very, very confusing. But that's what led Austin Cindric to winning stage 2. And this is where stage 3 began. And early in the stage 3, lap 176, we had a single car spin with the 15 at Casgrave. Kind of weird. It looked like Kyle Busch, who was a lap down, was trying to force his way in there and clipped Casgrave, got Casgrave to spin out. It looked like it was Kyle Busch's fault because he wouldn't have kind of instigated the contact. But the funny thing was, people were so annoyed the fact how the wreck, William Byron and Michael McDowell, how that was a caution, but the single car spin, which Casgrave kind of saved it, was just on the apron, trying to save it. He kind of did. Was a caution. So it also was a lot quicker. Like the trigger was quick. It was like he was just spinning out and they threw it to yellow. So that was a little bit funky and weird. We got back green and the race continued to pick up. We saw the Penske cars up there, the front row motorsports. We saw Brad Keselowski up there. Danny Hamlin was back up there after getting involved in the Julia Logano, Chris Buescher wreck and himself. He was still good. It was weird. You saw a lot of beat up cars. Cars that had a little bit of damage or some decent damage were still able to get up front. I think there was only 3 cars total in this entire race when it all ended up playing out that had no damage or were not involved in a wreck. So a lot of cars were involved in a wreck and were able to keep going. That's probably allowed so many cars that had damage to still be competitive because a lot of the people they're racing against had damage. But then we had another incident involving the 1 and the 9 on lap 200. It just looked like Ross went in there with Chase and just bumped him in the turns. And you can't do that. You can't lock bumpers in turns. It's going to spin the guy out. And that's what they did. And I mean, it looked like he was had no care in the world. He just went up there and bumped him, hit him, and got Chase loose. And he spun on the apron. That was a little weird. It looks like Ross, the Ross and Hendrick feud looks like it still could be picking up this year. We're still going to see some of that beef, especially when it comes to the Chevy camp. And then with about 51 laps to go, we saw 4 wide racing. 4x4, I don't know, 3 lanes deep for almost an entire lap, and we didn't wreck. I don't know who it all was. I can't remember on the top of my head, but it was incredible racing. Unbelievable. People are hating on this track. People were so worried about the Xfinity Series race, Truck Series race, that this track's not good. They're saying how the old track was better, all this blah, 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 blah. But we saw 4x4 racing. Unfreaking believable. And it really showed why the guys racing on Sunday are racing on Sunday. Because they're able to run 4x4 and not wreck. Which that also led into our next kind of caution with the 6 getting loose by himself. I don't know what it was. Same thing with his teammate Chris Buescher. They were up tight against the wall and just the air just sucked them all around. It's kind of confusing. But he got loose. But then Larson and LaJoie were following him, and that kind of took out Larson's day. Tore up the right side of his car, right front tire. Sat ready killed for Kyle Larson, tore it up, and he was kind of done for the day. And also Brad was done for the day. I believe he had some suspension damage. Really stinks. Brad had a good race. Brad's really good here in Atlanta, but just disappointing, man. I think this is his 100th race or something. I think he has a 0 for 100 starts since he's won, so he has a long losing streak, and it's still going to continue to go. Who knows if he'll get on to get a win this year at all. And then it was 241 laps to go. We had a 4-wide incident with main guys were Hamlin and Briscoe. Looked like Hamlin and got really tight to Briscoe due to the fact there was 4-wide with Suarez at the bottom and Busch out top. Looks like Briscoe got kind of loose and tight and just started to spin out, and then he collected Hamlin with that, and then he kind of ricocheted Briscoe off Hamlin, and he went head on into the wall to destroy Briscoe's car and his day, and also Hamlin's day. He had some right front tire damage. So that was a massive wreck. That actually ended up having a red flag due to some oil spill, and this was around 20 laps to go-ish. So we had a nice 11-minute red flag for them to clean the track up, and that was kind of nice, like breather. Okay, the intensity kind of dies down. And around that time, we had Busch, Suarez, Blaney, Cindric. We had a lot of contenders in this race. After the intensity picked up, the craziness continued to happen. We had one foul wreck with about 10 to go. It looked like Josh Berry kind of got loose behind some car, and he collected the 9, the 77. The 77 had all 3 tires off the ground. Did a little wheelie action there, tore up his car. No one was fully eliminated from this race, just got some damage debris. And that was kind of the last caution until we came down to the last couple of laps. It was Blaney, Busch, Suarez. Oh my gosh, it was unfreaking believable. Coming down the wire, beating the bag hard, racing aggressive, racing clean. And I thought, why not we break down the final lap of one of the greatest finishes ever. So the white flag's out. They're racing hard. Blaine's out front in turn 2. We got side-by-side with Daniel Suarez, Kyle Busch to the inside. No one has a run yet. Blaney's trying to block both lanes. He goes down to Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has a small run. He gets a massive run into the inside of Blaney. Suarez to the outside. There's 3x3. 3x3. Blaney, no one has a run. No one has help. They're racing aggressive, side-by-side, running against each other. Down to the final turn. Down to the final line. To the finish line. They cross. And who won? It ended up actually being Daniel Suarez that took the win. Unbelievable. I believe it was by .003. It was unfreaking believable. One of the greatest finishes ever in NASCAR history. And I was a bit surprised, because Blaney, I thought he was going to be able to manage those 2 lanes. But he didn't, and Kyle Busch had a massive run. And I was worried when he went to the outside of Blaney, and due to the fact that Suarez was right there too, it could have cost the wreck, but they didn't. They raced clean. They didn't wreck. No one did anyone dirty. And we had one of the greatest 3-wide finishes ever in NASCAR history. This is what the track was built for. This track was built for this type of racing. Yes, was there a lot of wrecks overall? 10 cautions, right? We saw, I believe, 48 lead changes in this freaking race. Okay, it was fascinating. It was awesome. I kind of want to go to this race now for the playoffs, and this is going to be great now. Yes, I would have liked to maybe see people probably would rather see Darlington as the opener, but to have Atlanta, it's going to be chaos and wildness. Unbelievable racing. We saw 4-wide racing. The runs, the bottom lane was strong. You can use the bottom lane. You didn't have to have 4 or 5 cars. You could make your runs. The side draft was aggressive. It was just unfreaking believable racing. I'm so happy for NASCAR. I love the sport. People make jokes about it. It's just left turn racing, but it's some of the best racing you're ever going to see in all of motorsports. If we look over the top 37 cars, your top 10 was Daniel Suarez, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, Austin Cindric, Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ross Chastain, Michael McDowell, Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs, Harrison Burton, Mark Truex Jr., Corey LaJoie, Cass Gralla, Chase Elliott, Ryan Preece, William Byron, Daniel Hemrick, and Carson Hocevar, and Justin Haley is your top 20. There's definitely going to be some cars and drivers that are in a hole with points after these 2 races due to the fact that they were caught in big wrecks and weren't able to finish the race, which could hurt them. But I do believe, like Brad Keselowski, I believe was 37th in points. I believe if he has speed in the mile halves and short tracks. He should be able to make those points up good and run well. Denny Hamlin, I think, has 19 points. He should be fine. But that does definitely kill, right? It kills the momentum. You're not having the momentum, and it got bad vibes. I know Bubba Wallace, I believe, where did he finish again? Bubba Wallace finished top 5. I think this is back-to-back top 5 finishes for Bubba Wallace. That is like his dream scenario for him. So that's awesome. And then let's just talk about the freaking winner. Congrats to Daniel Suarez. I mean, I didn't have him in my playoff picks. I thought, this is a big year for him. He's on the hot seat, right? We had SVG, Zane Smith coming up. They're trying to take his spot. He struggled last year, but no. He came out here and made it happen and won by 0.003 seconds. And made it, and now he's locked into the playoffs. As long as you don't get more than 16 winners and he's good on points, he's going to make it to the playoffs. It's huge. It's great because, he's the only Mexican driver we have. That's going to help the Mexican fan base. The more Daniel Suarez wins, the bigger the sport can also get internationally. He could be a mega star for the Mexican people, and that's really sick. I'm really happy with Daniel Suarez. Great finish, great story. Oh my gosh, unbelievable freaking race. Let's put this thing on the Rolly rate. It's a freaking 10.0 because it's a banger of a freaking race. Unbelievable race. Congrats to NASCAR. Congrats to all the drivers. Can't wait for Atlanta in the playoffs. All in all, thank you guys for watching. Congrats to Daniel Suarez again. If you like this episode, like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, y'all.